This story is a true story. The fuck, Abby? Once upon a time, there was a soldier. He joined the army young. He'd been brave. He wanted to serve his country. He wanted to defend his mum and his dad and his brothers who stayed at home. And he was brave. And he was a good soldier. And he was first into the line of fire. Whenever the bullets went flying and other people thought to their lives, he thought of the lives of the loved ones at home and why he was there. And he would charge the enemy lines. And whether it was blind luck or whether bravery is rewarded by some divine spirit, he made it through each and every war that came. And the wars were terrible and long, but he was brave. And eventually the wars got shorter and fewer, until finally, mercifully, there was a blessed peace in the kingdom. And the townsfolk were celebrating. The farmers were jubilant. And the soldier had nothing else to do. He had no purpose. He'd been a soldier for so long, his parents had died. He'd been a soldier for so long, it was all he knew how to do. I am a creature of war, he said to himself. I am ill-suited for peace. I know not what to do with myself. So he went to his brothers and he pleaded with them. He said, please, I am a good man. You know this. I am a true and compassionate man, and maybe I have only my uniform and my gun to my name, but I can learn and I can be helpful and I can be of service to you as you are of kin to me. And his brothers were hard men. And his brothers said, what can we do with you? What service can you be to us? No, you have no trade, you have no skills, you have no more link to us than the grass outside. Go then, and make of your life what you can. Well, the soldier took his gun, with a single bullet remaining in it, and he took his uniform, with its shiny, shiny buttons, and its many, many stitches, and its often repaired and darned and damaged sleeves, and he wandered, and he walked, and he looked at the peace in the land, and he realized that here there was no place for him. And so he took his gun with its single bullet, and he went up onto a broad heath on a hill, where there was a small circle of stones, and around it a larger circle of trees. And he sat and waited for nightfall, and the wind howling through the stones, and he contemplated eternity. Well, as he held his gun and he thought long and hard about what he was going to do and how he could best move on in this new world to which he was so ill-suited, there was a sharp whip crack behind him, and he turned, and there he saw a very handsome man in a long green coat with cloven hooves, but who was he to judge? And the stranger looked at him and said, soldier, soldier, what troubles you? And he said, well, I was bred for war. I am brave and I am courageous and I am compassionate, but there is no space for me here. Now the war is over. Now peace reigns in the land. I have no money. I have no means of sustenance. Nobody has need of my skills. And the handsome green-coated man said, well, if it is money you lack, friend, I could give you this. But a test would have to be made. You claim you are brave. You claim you are a soldier. Let us see how truly brave you are. And with another crack, the soldier heard behind him a deep rumbling sound. The ground shook and he turned, and there, where behind him there had been nothing but the wind, there was suddenly a bear, twice as large as he was, with great bristly hair and horrible fetid breath, yellowing teeth and sharp claws, all 2 tons of muscle, bearing down at the soldier. And the soldier turned and said, well, this I can do. This I can do. I'll tickle your nose for you. And he lifted his musket and fired his last bullet, and it went straight through the snout of the bear, and the bear, with its great lumbering charge, snarled and collapsed one last time. And the man turned back to the stranger, who applauded slowly. Wonderfully done. Let me make you an offer, said the stranger. Let me make you a promise. Let me make you a bargain. 7 years you will go without prayer, without work. 7 years you will go and I will dress you. 7 years you will survive. And if you do, I shall give you a pouch of coin which will never empty. Your wants will ever be satisfied. Your wants, maybe. And the man said, if it not cost me my soul, for the man was not an idiot and he knew who it was he was talking to. Very few people have cloven hooves. If it not cost me my soul, then I will accept your terms. And the devil, for it was he, turned and said, fine then. Let me give you a pouch of coin. And he handed the man a pouch, and when the man put his hand in, he brought a fistful of golden shining coins out, and he let them drop on the floor, and he reached in, and another fist, and another, and the coins were endless. And the man began to smile, and the devil said, wait, I have yet to garb you. You must go attired thusly for 7 years. And he reached out, and he pulled the skin off the bear. Sinew and flesh peeled like an orange, and the devil flapped it once, and the viscera and gore dried and coagulated, and he threw it around the shoulders of the man, who wore it like a cape and hunched with the weight of it, the bear's head hanging over his. Like this, said the man. Just like that, said the devil. And should you live, I will see you 7 years hence here. The man nodded and turned and went away. Well, he walked the earth without prayer, without work, and dressed as a terrible, horrifying bear creature. Easy. The first year was fine. He was still passably human. He didn't smell that bad. But the second year was harder. The second year, he started to really smell, and the bear seemed to grow over him and mat with him, and his hair fused into it. And the third year, his face was so dirty that had you sown cress into it, it would have rooted and grown. And everywhere he went, he took out handfuls of golden coin, but that became less and less sufficient to appease the fears and worries of the people that he encountered, to the point that in his 4th year, he could find no lodging anywhere. He went to an inn, and the innkeeper said, there's no room. He said, can I go in the stable? He said, no, Jesus is in the stable, you can't. Eventually, the innkeeper let him into a second stable under condition that he kept providing those great big fistfuls of coins, and that he didn't let anybody see him. And so, the poor soldier curled up in the stable, looking for all the world like a very sad, very ugly bear, and wishing that his 7 years were over, when he heard a wailful moaning, he heard complaining, he heard weeping, he heard the sound of sobbing coming through the wall. And because he had compassion and because he was brave, he immediately went to the door and opened it. And as unused as he was over the years of conversing with humans, he went through to try and say, friend, is there anything I can do? And the poor crying old man in the next room looked over and saw a great bear lumbering through the wall going, and he screamed and nearly fainted and ran and tried to claw at the window, but eventually the soldier, by means of hand gestures and a bit of tap dance, managed to convince the man that he was human and not a bear, and the man calmed down enough that his tears stopped flowing, and he was able to tell him what his problem was. And he said, I was inheritor to a vast estate. My father left me a lot, and I have squandered it. Little by little, year by year, it is gone. My money is gone. I have no possessions. I have nothing but 3 lovely daughters who I cannot afford to care for. I cannot even pay for my room for the night. The innkeeper will find this out. I will go to prison, and oh, what will I do? And the bear man, the soldier, said, if money is your only woe, friend, I can help you there. And he reached within the folds of his beary cape, and he pulled out a fistful of ducats, and he put them in front of the man. And he called the innkeeper and paid his debts and gave the man laden pockets of gold to go away with. And the man wept for joy. His tears changed in their crystalline structure, because the makeup of a tear changes depending on why you're crying, which is really cool. Science fact. And the man looked under a slide and went, oh, I'm happy now. And I can prove it. And he said to the soldier, he said, I am an old man, but my 3 daughters are miracles of beauty. Conveniently. Please choose any one of them to marry. And the soldier said, well, if they want to marry me, I mean, that's not, it's a Brothers Grimm story, you just get to pick. And so he led the soldier back home, and he came in through the front door and said, daughters, excellent, wonderful news. Father, you're crying. Yes, but happy tears, happy. I have been saved from our penury and financial predicament, and I have said to the soldier who has saved me that he will marry one of you. Oh, let us see the soldier, said the daughters, and in came the shaggy, dirty bear creature. Well, the eldest daughter, she looked at the bear and she went, oh no, and fainted straight away. The second daughter stepped up, looked at the bear up and down, and went, ugliness I could get used to, but if I must marry a bear, can it at least be a trained bear? There was a bear at the circus, and that bear could dance, and it was shaved, and she walked off. And the man said, oh, I'm so sorry. But his youngest daughter came and looked at the bear and looked at her father and said, you must be a good person, bear, if you've helped out my dad. And if you've promised a wife to this soldier, then I will do my duty, and I will be that wife. And the soldier, touched by the love for her father that the youngest daughter clearly had, leaned down to her, and she felt the weight and presence of him as he approached her, and he said, 3 more years I must wander. If I do not return in 3 years' time, you are free. Marry who you will. But should I return? And the soldier pulled a ring off of his finger and broke it in 2. Bear this token for me, and I will return in a manner more pleasing to you. And the bear lumbered off once again. Well, for 3 years, the soldier continued to exist. Thrive he did not, but survive he did. It's amazing what great big pockets of infinite money can do for you. And at the end of the 7 years, tired, sweating, so caked in dirt now, this kind of shuffling trash heap came back up to the hill where he'd met the devil 7 years earlier. And the devil was waiting for him. Fucking survived. I can't believe he survived. And the soldier said, this is yours, and started to take his bear coat off and dropped it on the floor. Oh, and this pouch, this is mine, he said. But first, devil, please, clean me up, make me presentable. And the devil looked at him and said, certainly I shall. You can trick the devil. You can cheat the devil, but he will always have his due. And so the devil took the soldier down to the stream and scrubbed the dirt off of him, and trimmed his beard, and cleaned under his fingernails, and did the weird thing where you put your feet in the box and let the fish eat all of the dead stuff. Give him a massage and ding, oh, very nice. At the end of it, when he was feeling pampered and looked much more handsome than he had done 7 years ago, He looked like a rugged soldier. He looked like a general. He looked like a conqueror. He looked amazing. And he came down into town and bought himself a fine set of raiments with brocade that swished impressively in the wind. And a nice big hat, like a pope. And he made his way, and he bought a carriage with 4 white horses, and he rode to the house of the old man with the 3 young daughters. And when he got there, the old man said, "Oh, this must be a general or something. This must be someone very important. Daughters look impressive." And the man said, "I'm here for a wife." And "He's here for a wife." And the eldest 2 daughters went, "Oh," and ran off to their rooms to make themselves look all pretty as they can. Tight up. There we go. And they started to come downstairs and, "You're so funny." But the youngest daughter did none of that. The youngest daughter was dressed in black. And she sat and she looked at the very handsome man who'd come in. "I shall fetch the tea." And when she left and the other 2 had gone to make themselves beautiful, the soldier took the half a ring out of his pocket and he put it into a wine glass. And when the youngest daughter came in with the tea, he said, "Let us have a toast. You first." And he offered her the wine glass and she drank and found at the bottom a fragment of ring, and her heart began to beat really rather fast, and she took out the fragment that she had, which she wore on a chain around her neck, and she put them together and they fit perfectly, and she looked at him and he nodded and said, "I am that bearskin soldier that you met. You have waited for me. If you will still marry me, I would still marry you." And "Yes, yes," she said, and she leapt and hugged him, and they span and were so happy that they didn't notice in the doorway the 2 elder sisters who had been looking in, green with envy in their nicest lingerie, looking at their happy younger sister. And when they found out that this gorgeous specimen of manhood, this brave soldier, this guy was the bearskin, they fled and killed themselves that night. One drowned herself in the well, the other hanged herself on a tree, the rope winding around her neck until her skin went blue and her eyes popped. And so the next morning, when the soldier and his lovely young bride came down to the door to see who it was so early in the morning with a jaunty knock, they opened it and they saw the matted, drowned locks and the popped red eyes of the 2 dead sisters, with the devil in between them, saying, "See here, bearskin, the devil gets his due. I wanted 1 soul, but I leave here with 2. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.